Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is time for the Jolting Joe Sports Show. I am your host, Jolting Joe Pellerin, coming to you from my back porch in Houston, Texas. And as we start every show, what are you drinking and what are you smoking? We got a local brewery here in Houston called Karbach. Started off as an independent brewery, got bought out by InBev, which is, Budweiser. They're buying up freaking everything nowadays. But anyway, Karbach, our local brewery, they make one for the Astros too, but since it's a basketball season, this one's called Clutch City. Old school Rockets there. Look at that. There you go. And then the Clutch City lager there. Better view there. Give them a little plug. And then once again, I haven't smoked this one. I've shown it, but we were inside at the time. But this one is Manny Ramirez, El Cubano. Manny Lopez, I'm sorry, not Ramirez, Lopez, Manny Lopez, from El Cubano, which is down in Texas City, Texas. Not too far from me, just down the road, about 20, 30 minutes. And this has got a couple different binders on it. So you got the, it goes dark, light, dark, darker, all right, there, and then it's got that really small tip there, so there you go, and a little torpedo action, so with the cut, and so that's what's kind of going, and might try to even this out just a little bit here, and see what we got going on here. All right, so let's crack this bad boy. Gotta love that sound, and cheers to you. Actually, I have another beer here too. So once again, it comes from a local brewery down in Galveston, Texas, Galveston Island Brewing. Since it was Mardi Gras, we celebrate Mardi Gras in Galveston. It's the third largest Mardi Gras celebration in the country, behind New Orleans and Mobile, Alabama. They did a blonde for Mardi Gras. So there you go, a little Mardi Gras blonde ale. There you go. And I'll put that away for later. But got that in my my Houston Roughnecks koozie. Yeah. So Roughnecks may be coming out. We'll talk about that. Hell, let's just talk about that right now before we get into the stupid fucking lockout bullshit. So the USFL, of course, they're starting back up. For those of you that don't know, the USFL was a league back in the 1980s, but Jim Kelly played in the USFL. I think Herschel Walker played in the USFL. So some few guys, Jack Pardee, who went on to coach the Houston Oilers back in the 90s. He was the coach of the Houston Gamblers in the USFL. So they're going to start playing here. But they're playing all their games in, I believe it's in Birmingham, Alabama. I know it's in Alabama. I'm pretty sure it's in Birmingham, but they're going to play all their games there. So you still have the old USFL teams, the New Jersey Generals, and the Houston Gamblers, and etc. But they're all playing their games this year, and that should start off. I think that starts this month, actually. I think it starts in March for that. So we'll see how that goes. As far as the XFL is concerned, The Rock, who of course owns the XFL, along with his ex-wife Danny Garcia, they said that they've got a partnership with the NFL, which I think if there's going to be a second football league that's going to stick around, I think you need a partnership with the NFL. And so they're going to use, basically the NFL is going to use the XFL to kind of tinker with rules and rule changes. All right, let me see if I can get this thing going here. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay. I think we got her. Just had to suck harder. Yeah. Alright, let's see if I can kind of get it a little even out here. And we should be good to go. Alright. I mean, it's a smoking and drinking show and sports show all in one. So there you go. Alright. Alright, so hopefully it looks as cool on videos as it does from my angle. But anyway, But they're going to use the XFL kind of to tinker with rules, which is kind of what like the I believe it was the Atlantic Coast League for baseball. They were kind of doing that, and that's kind of where the robo umps are kind of starting out, and the whole runner on second base, which they did for 2020 for the pandemic for extra innings, which actually I think they do that this year. They did that last year, right? The runner on second, or they get rid of shit. I don't remember. They did keep it around for 2021, and then they got rid of it for the playoffs, of course. But anyway, but that stuff, putting the runner on second, pitch clocks, all that started down in the minor leagues in the Atlantic Coast League, and so I think the XFL is going to be something similar to that. And to be completely honest with you, I mean, I went to the first Roughnecks game, and I kind of did like some of the rules. I like the way that they did kickoffs because the way that they did kickoffs, it was for the safety of the players, but you also got returns, which was good. But basically, they kind of backed the the kickups up there, and they backed they kind of, I can't remember exactly how it was. I had to go back and look at it, but they had the kicking team and the receiving team. I think it was only like 5 yards apart instead of being 10 yards apart. They were right there by each other, and then they moved the kickoff back. To, I think they were kicking off from like the 25-yard line maybe. So I think in the NFL they kick it off from the 35 or whatever the hell they do, and but they moved it back a little bit, and then like I said, they put the players just closer to each other. Like I said, only about 5 yards apart. Then that way, when they kicked off, there wasn't that whole, the kicking team didn't get the running start, which of course they've banned in the NFL now anyway. But the kicking team didn't get the running start, and then also too, you didn't have that big, massive collision. You didn't have guys running back to set up to block. It was just kind of blocking right up there at the kind of the front line there. And once again, though, but you got returns. I mean, you were like guaranteed returns, which is something we don't see in the NFL anymore because they just kick out of the back of the end zone. And everything's a freaking touchback because they're kicking off from the 35-yard line, and they're just in these kickers. I mean, they've got legs on them, and they're just booting them through the back of the end zone. And you barely get to see kick returns anymore. All right, so that was cool. And I kind of digged the extra points, and it did provide for a little bit more strategery, as GW would say. But it's better for some more strategery, and also too just kind of gamemanship because there was no you didn't kick extra points in the XFL. You either went for 1 point from the 2-yard line, you went for 2 points from the 5-yard line, or you went for 3 points from the 10-yard line. Which I think is kind of interesting. But it kind of turned out that like most of the coaches and stuff started going for 2 points and going from the 5-yard line because it was actually giving them a little bit more room to run the offense. And then not only that, you got a better chance of scoring a touchdown. But then also you're getting 2 points rather than just a single point. And so I think that was kind of an interesting thing. And whether you want to keep kicks for the NFL and do a 1 point conversion and then do like a 2 point conversion from the 5 and then do like a 3 point conversion from the 10, that'd be kind of cool, but if you're down, that'd be kind of awesome. If you're down, if you're down by, like 9 points or something, you score a touchdown, you get 6 and you can go for 3 and actually tie the game. That's kind of cool. But there were definitely some rules that I liked with the XFL. Now they allowed forward motion. That's probably never going to happen in the NFL. But the Canadian Football League, they do forward motion. The Arena League did forward motion when the Arena League was around. XFL did forward motion. Really, the NFL is the only league where you can't do forward motion. I mean, like I said, that will probably just never happen. I think they'd maybe give the wide receivers a little bit too much of an advantage there, and then also too it might be a little bit of a safety issue too. So yeah, they need to do that. So anyway, so we'll see what happens with the XFL. Man, just a random thought there. All right. All right. And trying not to ash too soon, but trying to clean this up a little bit too. So with that. All right. Well, no sense avoiding this. This topic here, and that's the MLB lockout. I am wearing my Zach Greinke shirt. today. And, well, the lockout's a clusterfuck. What else can you say? Baseball, everything that I've read from The Athletic and Evan Drellich over there, Jeff Pass on ESPN, hell, even Bob Nightingale with the USA Today, and Jesse Rogers from ESPN, and some other folks too, in the local guys, the local beat writers too. It seems to have been that the owners, number one, when the negotiations were taking place, because they extended the negotiations. The negotiations were supposed to end Monday. They ended up extending it to Tuesday. All right. And apparently what happened is MLB came out and said, we're real close to a deal. All right. And so we're going to extend the deadline till tomorrow. That apparently was a lie. And they were never they were never close to a deal. But MLB was trying to save face and basically put it on the commissioner, because Manfred works for the owners. All right, so Manfred and the owners, were trying to put it on the players, which is just horseshit. And as far as that goes, also too, I read, was it The Athletic, maybe Yahoo Sports, but I was reading too that basically the owners are okay with losing April games because they don't make as much money in April. Because basically you have opening day, which of course sells out. I mean, it doesn't matter where you at. I mean, you can be you can be in Pittsburgh and be a Pirates fan. You can be a Marlins fan. You can be, a Tampa Bay Rays fan. Cincinnati Reds. It doesn't matter where you are in the country. Good team, Dodgers, Yankees, Mets, whatever. Opening day, you're going to sell out. All right, unless you're the A's and you're playing a freaking football stadium. Also, too, maybe the Rays, just because somebody ever shows up for Rays games. But that's like the one guaranteed sellout of the year is opening day. And then, of course, kids are still in school in April. So, you're playing a Wednesday night game in April, a little bit harder to get out to the ballpark. People are working, things like that. So really, baseball makes all their money in the summertime, really. So the owners are just okay with losing those April games, which is really, really crappy as far as that goes. And so they've, in case you haven't been following it, they've canceled the first two series of the season. And this is going to get kind of interesting because I don't know, depending on how long this thing goes, I don't know if they're going to if they're going to reschedule the schedule, like basically make a new schedule, or if they're going to keep the 2022 schedule and you're just going to lose those games. So, for instance, the Astros would have opened up at home against the Philadelphia Phillies for an interleague series, and then they had the Yankees coming in after that. And so, once again, I don't know if they would just completely redo the schedule and the Astros would still play the Phillies, because that's an interleague game, and they would still play the Yankees in Houston, or if they're just going to just scrap that, and the Astros might have to go to New York and play the Yankees later in the season, but the Yankees won't have to come here. And we just won't play the Phillies because that was an interleague game at all. So we'll have to see what happens with that. From everything too that I've heard and read, there's the last two labor agreements. The owners have won basically, and so the players are trying to get what they can. And the Athletic, I haven't read it yet, but the Athletic just had an article too saying why you can't blame the players and why they have actually good reasons for their demands. And remember, this is a lockout by MLB. This is from the owners, which once again, this has been such a clusterfuck and been handled so piss poor by the owners, by the league, because they knew the collective bargaining agreement was up at the end of last season. All right, that when December 1st I think is when it expired. They knew that was the CBA was up. They knew all the difficulty that they had in 2020 negotiating that season amidst of COVID, and and the whole thing with full proration and how many games are we going to play and this, that, and the other thing, and then finally they just said 60 games. But I mean, The NBA got their shit together. The NFL got their shit together. Everybody got their shit together except for for Major League Baseball. All right. So, you know, so they had this. You saw this with the NFL. Like the NFL, they had a lockout a few years ago, but when this CBA came up, they were like, hey, let's not even dick with it. Let's meet early. Let's get a new CBA in place, and then we don't, let's go ahead and work it out, and we'll go ahead and extend it. It's kind of like extending a guy, right? When you're a player, you get well, let's lock this guy up. Let's get an extension on this guy before we let him go. That's kind of what the NFL did. The NBA did the same thing, all right? Because we had, now this has been held 20 years ago, but you had the NBA lockout. But ever since then, it's like, hey, we want to avoid labor strife. Let's just get a deal done. Hey, clock's ticking. And then with baseball, though, it was they didn't meet for like 40-something days after the CBA expired, all right? And then every time they met, it was literally for like 30 minutes when the two sides met. It's like, what the hell are y'all doing, guys? Yeah, what we do know when the new CBA is bargained, what we do know there's going to be two changes so far. One, we're going to get a universal DH, which I'm okay with. I'm also okay with pitchers hitting, but there should not be two sets of rules for the two different leagues. It'd be like in the NFL if the AFC played on a field that was 110 yards long, but in the NFC you played on a field that was only 100 yards long. Playing field, not the end zones, or something like that. Or if the goalposts were wider in the AFC than narrower in the NFC, or something to that effect. It makes no damn sense. All right. So to do that, to have two rules for that. So either do a universal DH or let pitchers hit. But a universal DH makes more sense for a couple of reasons. All right. And I know your old school baseball fans are going to disagree with me on this, and that's completely fine and okay. Because and I understand your point, because your point's going to be pitchers play baseball too. Pitchers should be allowed to. Pitchers should hit too. I get that argument. I completely understand it. It's a good argument. All right. I'm not knocking it. All right. But in this day and age, baseball has become so specialized, even amongst pitchers, right? You got your seventh inning guy, you got your 8th inning sit-up guy, you got your 9th inning closer, right? You got your long reliever, you got your guy that you're going to bring in when you're getting blown out to just eat up innings. All right, you have all these specialties, within baseball, and so I'm perfectly okay with just letting pitchers focus on hitting. I mean, maybe not hitting on pitching. I'm completely okay with pitchers just focusing on pitching and doing that because. And the thing, too, with starting pitchers is, once again, they're baseball players. I understand they should be able to hit. But the other thing, too, with the pitchers, they're only pitching, they're only playing every 5th day. All right. And so they're not like an everyday player. All right. An everyday player, of course, I mean, they're hitting, they're playing in the field, they're doing everything, all the time. Whereas pitchers aren't doing that. Pitchers are, your starting pitchers, they're playing every 5th day. And hell, they have a rough game, they're out in the 3rd inning. Right, and they don't even play a full game. Your everyday position players, they play full games, they play every day. Let the pitchers focus on pitching. That's all I'm saying. Like I said, you can agree with me, you can disagree with me. I get it, all right, but that's my argument. Okay, let the pitchers focus on pitching. Okay. Also, the DH is going to extend the careers of players, which is good for the players, obviously, because look at Albert Pujols. When he got older, started slowing down, can't play first base as much anymore. You make him a DH. All right, now Pujols just kind of went, down over his career in general. But maybe you get a little bit slower. Maybe you have knee surgery or something like that. Maybe you can't play the field. You lose a step in the field, but you can still hit. You still run a little bit. And you can become a DH later in your career. Right? It's kind of like moving a catcher. You're going to move like this guy. We want to save this guy. We don't want to blow this guy's knees out. We don't want him catching all the time. Let's extend his career. We need to become a DH, or we're going to move him to first base, or whatever the deal is, right? Yeah. So we're never going to get the universal DH. The other thing too is we're going to get expanded playoffs, and they're going to add 2 teams to the playoffs, one in each league, which that I'm okay with. The owners wanted to go to 14 teams, which would have been 7 from each league. I didn't like that at all. And now, but MLB said we'll give you 12, which would be 6 from each league. Because right now there's 5, because they expanded it once already. Well, they've expanded it twice because originally you said your 3 division winners, and then they added the wild card. And so then there was 4 teams, and now you have the 2 wild cards, and then you have the play-in game, for the wild card. So you still have 5 teams, because you have 2 wild cards and 3 division winners. So you got those. So I'm okay with that adding another game. I don't know what will happen. What I think will probably end up happening is the team with the best record is probably going to end up. Let's see. How would you do that? Because I'm trying to figure this out in my mind, because it'd be 1, 2, 3. So I give you 6 teams, because there's going to be 6 teams in each league. So you can do, so doom. Ooh, how would you do that? Because 6 doesn't break down evenly. At some point, the best team's going to have a bye. Because if they had a bye in the first round, that's going to leave you with 5 teams. That won't work unless the 2 best teams do it like the NFL is. Well, the NFL only does 1 top seed now. But if you did it like that, the old school NFL way, you could do it that way maybe, and then just have wildcard team versus worst division, player team, and do it that way. But the first round, I think, would just only be 3 games. Or what you could do is have the best team play a wildcard team, second best team play a wildcard team, and then division, all 3 division winners, because you'd add a third wildcard team. So each division winner would play a wildcard team, and you could just do it by seeding that way. But then after that would drop you. So that would leave you with 3 teams. So somebody would still have to get a bye for the second round. But that's gonna. That'll make things interesting. We'll have to talk about that maybe next week, since we don't have any baseball to talk about. But I think that would probably be the best way to do it, is your top 2 teams, top 2 division, the two teams with the best record would get a first round bye, would not have to play a 3-game series. So they would at least get, 3 days off, really 4, because you'd have a day break before the next series started. Maybe 5 days, because maybe a day before the playoffs start. But you a little quick 3-game series, boom, 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 you're done. So you would have top 2 teams would get it, and then you'd have 4 teams play. 2 of those get eliminated. That's going to leave you with 4 teams, and then you play the division series as 5 games, the league championship is 7 games, World Series is 7 games. So I can see him doing that. So that'd be interesting. I think that might be the best way to do that. Come think about. All right, and like I said, today we're just spitballing. Man, we're just pulling stuff out of our ass. All right, I got no notes today, nothing to talk. So we're just gonna go with that. Yeah, there we go. So that's what we know we're getting. The big difference, in case you have not been following this, to make a long story short, players want service time to change, because they're tired of the owners manipulating service time, which that is a big deal. It's happened with the Astros. It also happened with, was it Freddie Freeman? No, it was Chris Bryant, I think. Chris Bryant and George Springer are probably the 2 best examples of that, where you're tearing up the minor leagues, you're tearing up AAA. You should get a call up, and they're like, well, we'll bring you up for a couple of games, and then we're going to send you back down again, and to manipulate that service time, so you can't get your enough time accumulated to where they can keep you under club control for a longer period of time before you hit arbitration. So they want that change, which is understandable. They want arbitration to change. They want less years on the arbitration. They want the minimum salary to be increased, and then they want the luxury tax, competitive balance tax is what it's called, the CBT, competitive balance tax. They want it to be raised as well, because the players kind of view that as almost a salary cap, because if you go over the competitive balance tax, because basketball kind of has the same thing. They have the luxury tax, but if you go over that, you get penalized for it, and the players kind of view that as a salary cap, and they want that to be raised. The thing about it is, a lot of these owners, owning a baseball team is a hobby for them. It's a business. It's an asset. It's something else to make money. They don't really care about winning championships. Now, I can tell you Hal Steinbrenner wants to win championships. Jim Crane here in Houston wants to win championships. All right. I know Magic Johnson and his ownership group out in L.A., they want to win championships. There's, they want to win championships, but a lot of these owners just, look at the Pittsburgh Pirates, for crying out loud. Look at Oakland. Look at Tampa. Now, Tampa and Oakland have good teams, but it's Moneyball. They don't re-sign their good players. They don't sign them to lucrative deals. They have these really small payrolls. And if you're a player and, they're suppressing that, I understand it, and they're only $10 million away on the threshold of the tax. There's only a $10 million difference between the two sides, and neither side will negotiate, and both sides are just digging their heels in at this point. And it's just sad. And but I think if you're going to blame somebody, the owners are way more to blame about this than the players are. The players, I think, have legitimate concerns, legitimate gripes, and the owners are just trying to bend them over with no lube, So basically, we'll just have to see how long this thing freaking goes on, because it could go on for a while. I think at some point we'll have baseball. It may be May before we get baseball. I think for this to be a legitimate baseball season, you've got to get at least 100 in. So if you cancel April and you start playing on Memorial Day, I think Memorial Day is the latest that you can start the season, to be completely honest with you. I think if you lose 2 months, that's almost 60 games right there. So, that's close to 60 games. So if you lose, you got to play by Memorial Day. That, to me, to have a legitimate season. If not, it's going to be like 2020. And the Dodgers are still the World Series champions from 2020. Nobody can take that trophy away from them. But it's a gimmicky season. It had expanded playoffs. Hell, the Astros made the playoff. I'm an Astros fan, and I completely get it, y'all. They were one game under 500, made it into the playoffs. Now, granted, they made it all the way to the League Championship Series in 2020, but they should have never been in the first place. All right, had it not been for COVID, they wouldn't have been in. And then they ended up sweeping the Twins and beat the A's in 4 games, and then, after being down 0-3, took the Rays to 7 games. But, it was only a 60-game season. 60-game season, that's not even half a season. It's like it's like a third of a season. So, it is a third of a season. 60 and 60 is 120, and then 120 and 60 is, that'd be 180. So they play. So it was like a little over a third of a season, but not by much. So, that kind of turns into a gimmick. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. But it's just sad. It sucks. I was looking forward to going to opening day there at the Juice Box here in Houston and seeing that, American League pennant being raised. But when the hell is that going to happen? I don't know. Do not know. All right. And, you still got the minor league season. Minor leaguers are in camp right now. But it sucks. It sucks. And that's all there is to it. And I don't know how much this is going to hurt baseball. In 94, 95, it hurt baseball quite a bit. It took, Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire taking illegal substances and hitting balls 500 miles out of the ballpark, and both of them hitting, 60-plus home runs. Hell, McGwire hit 70, for crying out loud. for baseball to come back. So we'll see. We'll see. It sucks. That's all I can say. It sucks. So on that shitty note, uh, that's all I got for you today. Right now it's Friday, March the 4th when I'm recording this, by the way. But once again, follow me at Twitter at JJ Sports Show 63. That's at JJ Sports Show 63. Those are the numbers, of course. You can follow me there. And then, of course, here on YouTube, we'll try to catch you. We'll catch you next week, and hopefully we'll have some happier news. But until then, cheers, and talk to you next week. All right. Later.